This is Wild About Liberty, where the community joins together. Now here's your host, Terry Wild.
We have a really good show today. It's centered on education and what's going on in the schools. And we have three, I think, personally, the most qualified people that I know of to talk about this issue. It's really critical. It's something that's on the hearts and minds of a lot of us. So let me introduce my guest today. We have Sandy Trojan.
Hello.
And you've been a teacher, educator?
I would say educator. I was with Clovis Unified for 24 years. I started out just kind of like a campus monitor and ended up as instructional aide in special education for 14 years.
Well, you have been very active in the past number of years trying to address all these things that are going on to really challenge and to create problems for us in the schools with our kids. And Kevin Cookingham, you have had a distinguished career with the education system in Fresno County. Tell us about your background.
Well, I spent 25 years with Clovis Unified, 5 years up at Hume Lake, starting a little charter school up at Hume Lake. And I retired to run for Congress. I lost to Jim Costa in 2020. And I'm currently a principal in Golden Valley Unified School District.
Nice. And our call-in guest is Dale Brune. And Dale, you're doing so much, especially with the school initiative that we tried to get on the ballot last election. You're working on a new one. Give us a little bit about your background and how things are going with the new initiative.
Yeah, my name is Dale Broom. I'm a practicing physician here in Redlands, California. And as Terry, you've shared, I have been trying to get a school choice ballot initiative on the ballot for almost really the last four to 5 years. And we initially started with the group called Californians for School Choice in trying to get that ballot initiative on for 2022, but we're unsuccessful. We collected about 200,000 signatures all across the state, but we needed to reach about 1 million signatures to actually qualify it. So we've been revamping the initiative and trying to update it. And now we're working under a group called the initiative is called the CEO Act, which stands for Children's Educational Opportunity Act. And so we have submitted that to the state. Unfortunately, it does not look like we're actually going to be able to get it on for the 2024 election. So our goal is to place that on for the 2026 ballot. But in any event, we're out there just trying to inform people about school choice and tell them what education savings accounts can do for families.
Well, you know, if you take another minute, I think Kevin and Sandy would want to hear a little bit more about the details of the new initiative. And can you just give us a couple of minutes on describing that?
Yeah. So basically what this school choice ballot initiative is all about is called an education savings account. And this would be available to any student who qualifies public school in California. Their parents could enroll them in this savings account. And basically, this is not a voucher program. The money actually stays in the account, and it can be used for tuition at a private school. It can be used for educational expenses of various sorts, including books, online courses, even transportation to and from the private school. And the concept is that the money follows a child. Each child would get their equal share of Proposition 98 funds, which is currently around $17,000 per year. And that money can be used for those various educational expenses. Any money that's not utilized each year can roll over and can accumulate and can be used for later educational expenses, whether it be for private high school or for college or graduate school, those type of things. And basically, what you have to do to participate, you'd have to enroll in a private school, either for in-class learning, like a brick and mortar private school, or you can do home-based education through a private school. And the key is you have to be enrolled in that school to be able to, and that school needs to participate in the program for you to be able to exercise and use those educational funds. And so that's basically it. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question? How is it different than a typical ESA? Because a typical education savings account is tied to federal funding. And so if you use a traditional ESA, that money, that federal money follows a child. And if you go to a private school, they are they have to follow federal regulations. So how is this one different?
Well, what we're primarily focused on accruing is state education funds, Prop 98 funds.
Okay.
It's much more difficult to capture those federal funds or the local property taxes. And we think it's much cleaner because each gubernatorial budget for education details what is the per student spending for Prop 98 funds. And so our goal is to be able to capture those state education dollars, Prop 98 funds. Now, that currently is about $17,000 a year. The additional funds, including federal and local education funds, brings the total for the kids in the public school up to about $23,000 per student. So we're not actually going after those additional $5,000, but just for those, actually the additional $6,000, we're actually going after just the Prop 98 funds. And we feel that that's sufficient enough for most families to be able to, be able to send their kids to a private school. And so it's different. It's just going after state education funds.
Okay.
Dale, I have a quick question as well. Are you finding out that there is some concern regarding these funds, say the $17,000 that a student will potentially receive for his education or her education, and the state then trying to put too much regulation as far as saying if you're going to receive these and say you go to XYZ Christian school, you're going to be mandated to teach what we require you to teach because you're receiving state funds. Is that a concern, and how are we battling against that?
Excellent question.
Yeah, I think that's a concern that a lot of parents are concerned about who currently send their kids to private school or do homeschooling. They do not want the state government coming in and dictating curriculum, teacher credentialing requirements, exclusion of religious-based education, and various things like this. So the way our initiative is written, of course, it's a constitutional amendment as well as a statute portion. The constitutional amendment overcomes the current Blaine Amendment that's in our state constitution that prohibits state dollars going to private Christian or religious schools. So we have written that's part of the initiative. But then we've also, in the statute portion of the initiative, very clearly identified that the state cannot come in and dictate curriculum mandates, teacher credentialing requirements, admission policy, disciplinary policies for whether it be student or faculty, or any faith-based or religious requirements to go to the school, those type of things. So we've tried to define what the state can and cannot do. Currently, the state does not come in and micromanage private schools, other than basic requirements in terms of the health and safety issues for students, and the requirements of a building or facility, that type of thing. So we really have tried to limit with a lot of the language in the bill to prevent the state from coming in and dictating a lot of those different things. So
excellent. But
it is a concern. A lot of parents have that concern, but I think we've done a good job of prohibiting the state from coming in and doing those type of mandates.
Well, I think our listeners would probably want to have some perspective. Where are we right now? Kevin, Sandy, Dale, where are we in terms of the threat to our way of life, the threat to our religious beliefs and convictions, and all of those other areas that we are being attacked and we're being manipulated? So where do you see that, say, Sandy, where do you see that threat right now?
Where do I see that threat? Well, if your children are in public schools, that's where the threat is at. And even with Governor Newsom, I think it's been a month now. I've been saying 3 weeks, but I think it's a month since he recently passed Senate Bill 1078. So I'll use Clovis Unified as an example. Even though they have to abide by federal mandates and state mandates, they have always written their own curriculum so that they could, make the move into that new mandate easy. Well, Governor Newsom with 1078 has taken away all local control of a district for curriculum. So local school districts no longer have control. So that's a big threat.
Which is another motivation why we should pass this amendment, right, Dale?
Yeah. Absolutely. The other thing, it's just not curriculum too. There are also in that AB 1078 bill, there are issues about library books and
Yes.
which books cannot be removed from a school library, particularly books that discriminate against LGBT content, character, authors, and those type of things. And so it makes it very difficult for a school to remove books that they deem sexually inappropriate for kids in the public schools.
Well, Kevin, you are in the public school system right now. You're operating there. What's your assessment?
Well, I would put the school that I am currently a principal at in Madera as being a little bit of a different situation. It's a little country school. It reminds me of what the schools used to be 30, 40 years ago in regards to values. We're not dealing with a lot of the things that we're kind of out of the mainstream, and we like it that way. Our parents are wonderful people, very few discipline issues, and I'm very blessed to be at that school. But overall, I agree with Sandy 100% that we are in some serious hurt in our education system. And one of the things I would say to parents is you better know what your kids are learning. You better know what they're teaching them. You better know what they're looking at on their phones. You better know their character, because it could be a teachable time with your kids being in public school, and it could be an absolute disaster as well. And I've seen kids totally go south. And a lot of the job descriptions now for education, they literally exclude people of faith, because if you look at the job description and you go, wait a minute, I can't do that. I don't believe this, or I don't believe that. Unless you lie in the interview, you won't be getting these jobs, because they exclude people that have traditional religious values.
What I find hard to deal with in putting on this radio program, for example, is how to refer to the people and the idea that there's this organized effort. It's a, they have a mission, they have an agenda, but who are they? And so I think the listener was probably in the same boat. What do I do? How do I deal with this? We're dealing with shock and awe, because it isn't just the schools, it's in every other aspect of having our liberties and being able to have the protections of the Constitution. And so now I'm grateful that the two of you and Dale, you're coming up with a solution, Dale, that I think can take us a long way down the road to getting parental control back by putting on this initiative. So what has to happen now? What are the steps that people should be aware of to make this thing happen?
Well, along those lines, I wanted to mention one other thing about a school choice initiative, whether it be in this state or any other state. Whenever a state or county or municipality enacts a school choice, it forces the public schools to improve. And they've done numerous studies on this, where up to 21 different studies have been done, and 20 out of 21 studies have shown improvement in public school as following the implementation of a school choice initiative. So a lot of people would say we're trying to destroy public education. We're not. We're actually trying to create competition in the market out there, and competition will force the public schools to improve and to listen to parents and their concerns and make sure they're not kept in the dark regarding various issues. And so to get our school choice initiative, what we're going to need to really do is right now we're in the process. We need to raise funds. Funds are really essential because this is a statewide ballot initiative. Most people who say that if you run a state constitutional amendment, you need about $2 to $3 million ideally to get it on the ballot. Mm-hmm. And that's still using volunteers to get out there and do the work. But you have to publicize it and get the information out to people, because a lot of people are not aware of it. We have to collect around 850,000 signatures to get it qualified for the ballot, which means that we really ideally need to collect about 1.2 million signatures. And this is over 180 days to get that on the ballot. Wow. In the process, when we submitted our initiative this time around with the CEO Act, we hit some problems with our legislative analyst's office, which delayed us getting the initiative going. And so we decided that we had to scrap it for 2024 and shoot for 2026. But even once it gets approved by the Attorney General with a title and summary, then we have about 180 days to collect that many signatures all across the state. And then those signatures have to be verified and either by a sample or a full count, depending on how many signatures you have collected. And so it's a big project to get this all accomplished all across the state. But because of 1.2 million signatures is a large number of signatures. And like I said, last time we did this under the California School Choice Act, we basically only got about 200,000 on a very limited budget with a pure volunteer workforce.
Well, on the budget side, again, how much do you think you're going to need to make it work? Total? Well,
at minimum, we really need to, and a lot of us have felt that we should not launch it until we've raised $2 million.
So
at minimum. And so most ballot initiatives fail because of lack of funding. There's been only one major ballot initiative that has passed in this state with a pure volunteer workforce, and that was Prop 13 many, many years ago. So most ballot initiatives really do need to raise funds and to publicize it and to get paid signature gatherers out there as well as volunteers.
Dale, I have a question. I'm sure that Terry told you that I don't agree with school choice on a typical definition of school choice, but obviously this one is built off of, 98.
This is Prop 98
Prop
funds.
98 funds. Okay,
funds.
So have you ever considered, because when I hear school choice, I think of federal money. Have you ever considered calling it parental choice?
There's some talk about that, calling it parental choice. But the concept is that not only do you have the public school option and the charter school option available currently, but then we're now adding the layer of private school education and state-funded home-based education through a private school. So it allows more options for parents. If you like your private school, you can stay in it. If you like your charter school, stay in it. But this is for those parents who are concerned about those type of schools and they want to have more options. This basically does give parent choice. So it is really parent choice. But if you follow much about school choice, most education for students comes from the state. Only a small percentage actually comes from the federal government.
Which is why we should get rid of that money.
School choice, you really have to do it with state funds to really fund it well.
But if you look at the $2 million, you're talking about $35,000 per county in California.
That's not.
So that isn't overwhelming.
That's doable.
And I think people should know that and be encouraged. Let's make this thing happen. Let's do this. The last time you were limited, I was involved in a lot of the logistics, but everyone I talked to was enthusiastic. They saw it because they want their parental rights.
But there is a problem, though. Excuse me. There are so many parents, I would say the majority of parents that have their children in public schools that either don't know what's going on, they don't know the curriculum that's being taught, or they know and are just turning a blind eye. So you've got to, I've been doing this for over 10 years, trying to educate parents, everything from Common Core, social emotional learning, next generation science standards, comprehensive sexuality education. And for a moment, you think they get it, but then nothing is done. And like for me, Senate Bill 78, if nothing else affected parents and made them see what is going on, then that bill to me was the nail in the coffin. You're taking away my school, even if you like your school district, you're taking away my school district's ability to have control over the curriculum. And if parents don't see this, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because you need parent support.
A lot
Parents
of us have been going to school boards complaining.
Yeah.
And now it's like they're hiding behind this AB 1078. Like we're trying to still get certain books removed from our school libraries.
Right.
And they're like saying, no, we can't do this because of AB 1078.
But wouldn't that be classified as an illegal law? That has that has so many violations to our constitutional rights that law just isn't legal. And yet we're accepting it as though it is, in my mind. What do you think, Kevin?
Well, I just think that a lot of people, I think you talked about hiding behind certain state laws. I think things need to be challenged. And I think the other thing is most of the people in my circle of friendships and so forth, their biggest concern has to do with the values being taught in our schools. It's not so much at least in our area, that the schools are horrible schools in regards to educating students. It's the values that are totally opposite of the values that they want their children to learn and understand. And these values are being taught as a norm. And so I look at this and just saying, if there's an unjust thing, just like when the governor and the I'll just say the left wing of the California legislature were saying you couldn't go to church, but you can go to Costco, you can go to Target, you can go to all these, a bar or whatever, but you can't go to church. That was challenged.
And have an abortion.
And have an abortion, yeah. That was challenged, and guess what? They lost because it was violating religious freedoms. These kinds of things need to be challenged. And by the way, I agree 100% with what Sandy said. There's a lot of people that are just in the dark. They just don't know for sure what's going on, and their kids don't communicate those things to them. And I remember one time my daughter came home from school and said, well, my teacher said that our nation's values were not founded on Christian principles and so forth. Well, I just happened to have a David Barton book in my bookshelf, and it was a great learning time with my daughter where we sat down and went through that. We need to get the churches, in my opinion, behind all this. Because that could make some big changes, and we gotta quit having people saying, "Well, we don't get involved in politics." That's baloney. That's absolutely ridiculous. And so I would like to see somebody, I'm always saying somebody, looking in the mirror, but that would start getting churches involved in the different areas and saying, if you want to have a part in this, and if you want to have an opportunity to send your children to a school that teaches the values that you teach at home.
Open your doors.
Yeah, exactly.
I really believe we're where we're at because of our churches.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
And that's a tough nut to crack. We both work. Dale, I think you and I both work with Dran Reese from Salt and Light Council, and she has a complete program that explains exactly how to deal with voting and being involved in politics without violating the 501c3 statute, and being able to express all kinds of things about how people should get involved, and yet we just can't get the amount of support out of the churches. What's your experience? You went through this on that last initiative.
Yeah, I will say that I would mention with the concept of school choice and the ability of parents to select a private school, it is going to expand the opportunity for parents to be able to get their kids a religious-based education, Christian, Judaic type religious training. So basically, any parent could select a private religious school under a School Choice Act to be able to send their child to school, which means there will be an opportunity for many churches to actually start getting back involved in education of children. And it used to be, if you look at our nation's history, much of education initially started with the church.
Exactly.
The church doing the education process. Many of our famous Ivy League schools started as religious schools, okay? And it's going to be an opportunity for churches to get involved. They can either do home-based education through their school, or they can do a brick and mortar type private school. But it's going to give more kids an opportunity to get a Christian education than anything else that we can do if we pass school choice.
So if you look at it right now, we need $35,000 average per county. That would fluctuate based on the size, but so it's doable. So $35,000 per county. That's number one. Number two, we need to reach out to the pastors and organize the pastors and try and appeal to them that they should get involved without jeopardizing their status, their tax exempt status. So that's important. So Sandy, how do you feel about Dale's initiative? Is it worth embracing here in Fresno County? Is it something that we should?
Oh, absolutely. I'm so pleased to hear about the initiative. I think it's an answer to prayer, but churches are going to have to open their doors because Fresno Christian is impacted. Clovis Christian, the private Christian schools here, all the schools are impacted right now just because the number of parents that are waking up. Heart Christian Academy here in Fresno, which is it's a homeschool program, but they only go to school 2 days a week and then they're homeschooled the other 3 days. So it's a hybrid program. That's the word I was trying to think of. They're impacted. So churches are going to have to open their doors. And you know what? I know that's what the Lord wants.
Well, you know, when I asked Sandy and Kevin to come on the show, Dale, it was because I wanted them to talk to you and have a discussion so other people could hear how they feel, because they're both highly respected in Fresno County. And they've spent a lot of years trying to deal with this issue. So from what you've heard, how do you feel about the initiative that Dale's trying to do?
Well, I think it's awesome, but I think one of the problems that we've got is we've got a lot of people now with the mindset of, okay, they've lost hope. That's the problem.
Yeah.
They've lost hope, and they're kind of like just going, okay, where can I find the safest neighborhood? What state can I go to get away from what we're dealing with here and so forth? And you know what? I believe that one of the biggest things we can do to help spur this on is say, there's hope. Mm-hmm. There's hope. We're going to fight this thing and encourage people and so forth, because we really live in a state that is, if I was going to give it one term right now, or in regards to the feeling, hopelessness. Mm-hmm. And so we've got to change that. We've got to turn that around so people will have a desire to put out and put time into things and put money into things and so forth. We've got to let people know, look, here's the plan. There is a plan to see success in this. There's a plan of turning this state around. There's a plan of getting the right people in office. I can't tell you how many people just in this last election that had never run for anything before, and they're running for school board, or they're running for city council, or supervisor positions, and state and federal positions and so forth. And that's a great thing to see. We've got to get the right people that have some influence and some power and so forth. Mm-hmm. But the greatest thing that I think we can do is go, hey, we can do this. Yeah. We can see this thing happen through God's grace and God's power and people getting out there and taking some action. But we got to get out of the mode of, I just need to separate myself and try to go into a protective state.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I want you to know you have my full support. I am on board with you.
Yeah.
And I think it is really going to minister to those people that I personally believe you can work full time and homeschool. You just have to look at it differently. You know, you can't homeschool 8:30 to 2:30, but this is going to meet so many needs for those families that can't homeschool because they work full time, and that they'd be able now to send their child somewhere else. And so that's what's going to make a difference. The need is so great.
Both Sandy and Kevin have been involved in starting schools, but the last time we spoke, Dale, you mentioned how I thought you were saying how easy it is to form a school to qualify for the funds. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, the way we have set up the initiative currently is that parents can do private education through a private school that is in state or out of state. And that now there are a lot of homeschoolers currently that are doing home-based education through a private school in another state because they distrust our government so much, our state government. Mm-hmm. Now, the other thing is they can do either in-class education through that private school, or they could do home-based education, or they could do a hybrid, like what you were just sharing a few minutes ago. So they have those options. Now, to start a private school that participates in the program, they have to fill out the appropriate paperwork, and they have to be a minimum of 10 students in the school. So this will allow the option if parents want to have a group of homeschoolers come together and form a micro school. We've tried to set that up. What they have to do is they have to submit either accreditation documents that they're accredited school, or that they're going to be doing biennial testing every 2 years. So if those are going to be required. They either are accredited or they do every 2-year testing of the students. Now, what they also have to submit an audit of their school, an annual audit of just a standard audit of their finances. They also have to comply with, if they're a brick and mortar school, any requirements that the state may have in terms of, the facilities and things like that. And then basically, we pretty much excluded any other mandates that the state comes in. Now, they're still going to have health requirements. They're going to probably still say this private school still has to comply with our vaccine requirements, those type of things. But if they're a home-based education, they're doing that through a private school, our initiative basically says they cannot enforce those vaccine mandates on students that are doing home-based education because they can't do that currently. So we basically try to set it up and make it easier to start a school. What we'll probably see is a big proliferation of private schools in the state to start filling the need of the parents who want to go through a private school for this education savings account. So we tried to make it relatively easy to participate, but there's still going to be some private schools who just say, no, we're going to sit back and watch and wait, see how this pans out. But I think as parents have the funds in those education savings accounts, they're going to go to the private school administrators and say, we want you to participate in this program, or we're going to go to another school down the road. And so there's going to be a lot of pressure from parents saying, yes, we want you to participate in this program.
That's good.
I was going to mention one other thing, political ramifications of passing school choice. And this is just in regard to building optimism. So much of Sacramento is driven by the California Teachers Association and the funds that they fund these different legislators. If we create school choice in this state, it will massively defund the teachers union in this state, which means that they will have less political power and control over Sacramento. And the ramifications could be huge in this state in terms of where we go in terms of education as well as other issues.
That's huge.
Well, it really boils down to the will. Do we have the will to do this? And what you're saying, Kevin, is people are discouraged. I don't blame them for being discouraged. How could you not be discouraged with this oppressive, juggernaut of evil trying to change our lives, trying to control us in all these different ways that are absolutely unconstitutional? You can't help but being discouraged. But what you're saying, Dale, is we have 3 years to pull this off now. If we're going to
we'd like to try to get this done because every year that goes by, we have more and more students who are suffering in the public schools.
Yeah.
Well, based on the last one, we were scrambling all over. I was driving up and down the state handing out materials to people in different counties, and 3 years almost isn't enough time. It sounds like it's a long way away, but this is a big task. And so let's give people hope. Let's get this thing going here in Fresno County. We can get some organization around it. So tell us what it looks like to be a volunteer and be part of the program. What's the structure look like?
Well, I was going to first urge people to visit our website, which is www.educationopportunity.org. Not educational, but educationopportunity.org. And they can learn about the Children's Educational Opportunity Act. And I think Terry's got the logo, so if he wants to, and the QR code if people want to visit that. But then basically we're trying to raise funds right now, but also you can sign up to volunteer. We really think that probably what we need to do is have people who are willing to be kind of a city coordinator to do outreach in the city, whether it be speaking on behalf of school choice or actually going out and organizing groups of volunteers to collect signatures and that type of thing. So there are ways to volunteer right now. We definitely need people who are willing to do public outreach and speaking on behalf of school choice. So if that's something you're interested in, just let us know as well. But the big thing is we have to get the news out. We spent a lot of time last time around just educating the public about what school choice is about. And people are starting to wisen up because we've got a lot of states now that have school choice available. And we just need to continue to educate the public regarding school choice.
I have a quick question, Dale. You mentioned a while back, as you were speaking about accreditation or testing every 2 years. And we got a little more time here, and I just wanted you to ask, it seems like accreditation can be a daunting task for a school and so forth. Could you talk to the listeners a little bit about what happens if a school isn't accredited and maybe they do the testing every 2 years? How does that impact their future? For instance, if it's an elementary school that is not accredited and they want to go to a public school, say in high school and so forth, how does that impact?
Well, accreditation is a daunting task, especially if you're working in a small school where you may not have the funds to pay for that accreditation process. My understanding, it's somewhere around a couple $1,000s to get accredited. And so it's can be kind of daunting for some smaller schools to get accredited. And accreditation doesn't necessarily mean excellent outcomes. Okay.
That's for sure.
It's kind of more of a self-reflective process where you look at your school and how you can improve and various things like this. And but it is something that is oftentimes carries more recognition as a student graduates from high school and they're going on to college. They can say, yes, I went to this accredited school, that type of thing. But it's not the be all end all. And what's really important is that the kids get a high quality education. And parents can do that without necessarily doing the accreditation process. So that's why we've given the option where they can do testing in lieu of accreditation. Now, with the testing results, they need to send the results, a summary of those results, into the state so that they can keep a profile of the school for prospective parents. So they'll have information about what the tuition is at that private school. Do they do home-based education? Do they do in-class or hybrid? And then what are their test scores and things like that, so that parents can get a better idea of what quality of education they're considering purchasing with that education savings account money. So, but I think we really felt that we needed more flexibility for the schools. And by allowing testing in lieu of accreditation, we think that gives more opportunities for schools to get started, that type of thing.
And who are your two greatest agencies or groups that are giving you pushback on this?
Well, I think the biggest thing are teachers' unions.
Mm-hmm.
They will spend multiple millions of dollars to defeat school choice in the state. Because as I said, if we pass it, it will massively defund the teachers' unions.
Yeah.
So the teachers' unions, we also find that a lot of public school teachers have been misled by their unions to believe that this is going to be harmful for their career. Whereas when school choice is passed, there will be opportunities for many of those teachers to leave the public school and work in the private school sector, where they may feel a religious conviction that to not comply with public school mandates, they will be free of that if they go into a Christian school. Mm-hmm. And likewise, the pay in the private schools will go up because now all of a sudden there's better funding.
That was one of the first things I thought of.
And the other thing is there's going to be more opportunities for teachers to get together and say, you know what, let's form our own school. And you'll have teachers in either the public school or in the private school setting say, I think I can do a better job running a school. I'm going to start a school, recruit parents to come and join, get their kids enrolled. And so I think there's going to be an opportunity for a lot of teachers who want to be entrepreneurs and start their own schools.
I'm sorry. No. There's a lot of teachers that really would like to leave but can't. Mm-hmm. And I know that I'm not going to give away too much information, but where my sister is running a very small school, 23 students, she and her daughter, they were homeschoolers. And there was a mom whose children go to this very small school. And so she took the day off and went in to shadow my niece. And at the end of the couple hours, she just sat and cried. She said, this is what I thought teaching was all about. Nice. You are teaching these children to love learning. She said, I'm a paper pusher. I'm solving problems all day. And it was just amazing. So those are the kind of the teachers that you're going to find that want to be able to truly teach children to love learning, because right now they're learning to take a test.
Well, exactly. Not only that, I think a lot of our teachers are just doing everything they can to manage the class.
Yes.
Because we don't have a discipline support. At the state level, we don't have discipline support. at the local level, and many principals do not have the guts to do what needs to be done to support teachers with classroom management. And
Exactly.
so a lot of our teachers are doing nothing but just redirect, surviving. Absolutely. I saw a study not too long ago that the one of the most stressful jobs in the United States is a high school teacher in the inner city.
Whoa.
And you can just imagine that's all they're doing.
Well, as a marketer and somebody that's done advertising and promotion for many years, if you can't sell this program, something's wrong with you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this thing, $35,000 a county is so doable. Building incentives to have a fund available in the counties after that to help compensate financially.
Yep.
That just can't be a big problem. We're 1,100,000 people. We're the 5th largest county in California. If we can't do $35,000 and then some additional support funding to keep this thing alive, something's wrong with us.
Mm-hmm. But we are California.
But we are California. But, I think I'm hearing hope.
Oh,
Yeah, and I was thinking while we were talking, I was thinking about John Maxwell has a book. One of his first books was 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and he talks in there about if you want to move things faster, find people of influence and get them involved. And there's people like Hibbs and other people in this state that are well known by millions of people, different Christian leaders and people with political influence and so forth. To me, that's one of the best places to start.
Yeah.
People that have a voice and people can get the word out right along with you. And I agree. I think there is hope. I think there are people that will do this. I think people are at an end. I think people are like saying, I can't take this anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, just as Sandy said, that's why we see all these schools impacted, because the parents are saying, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get my kid to a Christian school or to a private school of some sort, because I don't want any more of what's going on in our public schools. And like I said, the school that I'm at, I think it's quite a bit, pretty blessed to be there, because it's a very small little country school, but that's not the norm.
Mm-hmm.
That's not the norm.
No.
Yeah.
Well, 10 years ago, I started to say that the education ship was listing, and we could upright it if we stood together and we made a difference. And it's not listing anymore. It is sunk. And I don't think public education is salvageable.
It probably
This is
isn't,
the
because
answer.
you'd have to change people in so many ways that are determined to keep it status quo.
Well, we have to get the federal government out of there, which there are federal laws that forbid the federal government's involvement in education, and yet we don't do anything about that.
Well, we're down to just over 3 minutes left in the show. This thing has gone by like a rocket ship. What a blessing. But there's so many. If we get people together and start kicking this thing around, how we can overcome the financial side and helping the parents and doing all these different things, there's a way to get the corporate business community involved, where they're going to benefit by people's patronage and support for their businesses. They can provide monies. I mean, there's so many opportunities to make this thing work. So Fresno County, $35,000, and we have to get. We already have opportunities like with Clinton Nealand. He said he would help with accreditation, and I don't know all that detail you do, but let's make this thing happen in Fresno County. What do we do?
I'm on board.
Yeah, this is definitely a statewide process. We've got to get counties all across the California to get together and work and collect signatures and raise funds and things like that. And I was going to mention, not only our website, the www.educationopportunity.org, but also people can call this number 323-417-4644. And that will allow them to basically get a little text back. That
one more time on that number, Dale. One more time.
Yeah, it's 323-417-4644. And we'll send you a little video explaining a little bit about the CEO Act. And, like I said, you can also visit our website too.
And one more time on the website.
Yeah, it's www.educationopportunity.org.
Well, it's been a joy to have all three of you on this program. I think we've actually created a little hope and encouragement. And I want to thank you, Dale, for the hard work you've done. That last time, I know you worked your head off. You were traveling and all the expense involved, and you really have been a powerful leader in what we're trying to do with our schools. I want to thank you for that. And now to do it again, to put the commitment behind what you're trying to do for 2026, we want to help you as much as we can. Sandy's on board. Kevin's on board. I'm on board. Jeremy, are you on board? He's on board.
On
so
board.
How can we fail with Jeremy at the dials? Thank you for tuning in to Wild About Liberty. This is the liberty that we all love and want to keep for ourselves, for our children, for our country. And so let's work together. If you want to get involved and you want to be part of this, you heard the phone numbers and the website. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you tomorrow. God bless.
Thank you for listening to Wild About Liberty with Terry Wild, only on KXCX 1550.